Welcome back to MedBio Bus. So now squint. This is part 2 of your ophthalmology. So I'm not doing continuous 1 hour. There is partly videos. So squint. We saw that 4 muscles that are basically required. That is any kind of deviation in those 2 muscles which contract or the other 2 muscles which relax would lead to your squint, any kind of lesion in those. So when squint occurs, then there can be an apparent deviation and there can be a true deviation. Apparent deviation means in reality squint is not occurring, it is just a false squint. So we call that as pseudostrabismus. Pseudo means false. Then there can be true deviation. Under true deviation we have your heterophoria and heterotropia. So heterophoria means latent or hidden squint. So squint is there but it is not visible. When will squint be visible? When there is some sort of ocular stress. And what is basically ocular stress? Your near reflex. So we know that in your near reflex, when we see your near vision, then we basically see, that is, we require 3 things for your near vision to be proper. First is your accommodation, then second is your convergence, and third is your meiosis. So these all constitute of your near reflex or near vision. So when there is ocular stress, that is for 2 hours, let's say you are trying to read a book and near vision is being used. So after those 2 hours, that is the faulty muscles, your medial rectus or your lateral rectus, whatever, they would start to deviate. So deviation can be seen after ocular stress. The moment the ocular stress would be gone, then again the moment ocular stress is gone, again deviation would be gone. So that is called as your latent squint or hidden squint, heterophoria. Now we have heterotropia, which is your true squint or visible squint. That is visible squint or manifest squint, that is, it can be seen in the patients. On the further, it can be divided into committant or concomitant squint and incomitant squint. Now committant or concomitant squint is basically deviation which is seen in all the directions of gaze, whether the person looks straight, whether the person sees over here, there, whatever, that is the angle of deviation which is present in that eye, it remains constant. That is when the this is called as your committant or concomitant squint. In committant or concomitant squint, the primary deviation is always equal to your secondary deviation. That means, what is primary deviation? That is, primary deviation is when the normal eye fixates on any kind of object. So if this is the normal eye and it is fixating on this object, then the other eye is deviated. So it should look like this, but there is this angle of deviation. This is your primary squint. Secondary squint, when this eye then moves over here. So by law of Hering, if your this side is your inferior oblique, so if your inferior oblique of your right side is moving, then obviously your left superior rectus is also obliged to move. So rather than coming here, earlier deviation was this, so it comes here. So we will see, that is, after movement of the eye, we will see like this. So this is your secondary deviation. That is deviation seen when deviated eye fixates on an object. So the deviation seen when it fixates on an object, and this is when primarily normal gaze. So if in normal gaze you see deviation, then that is your primary deviation. If on fixation you see deviation, then that is your secondary deviation. So in committant squint, that is, your primary deviation is equal to secondary deviation, whereas in incommittant squint, that is with different directions of gaze, that is, the deviation keeps varying. So your secondary deviation is always going to be higher than your primary deviation. Then ocular movements, over here when we do ocular movements, then there is no restriction. Over here there is restriction of ocular movement is present. Then diplopia or double vision can be seen over here. That is, two objects in is not seen. In committant squint, diplopia is not seen, whereas in incommittant squint, diplopia is seen. Then head posturing is also seen. So in order to make the image better, that is motor movement, certain motor movement is done. And sensory anomalies, any kind of sensory anomaly, over here it is not present, over here sensory anomaly is present. Then we come to incommittent squint. That is, incommittent squint can be of two types: paralytic squint and restrictive squint. Paralytic squint, that is, how do we differentiate between the two? That is, we take an eye and we keep that eye open, that is, and then we try to move it with the help of, after like this, the eye is open, it is outstretched and open, then we take a forceps and we try to push the eye at the limbus, try to move the eyeball which is held at the limbus by the forceps. If the movement occurs, then it is paralytic. Then basically if movement does not occur, then it is restrictive. So this test is called as forced duction test. Forced duction test is basically diagnostic of restrictive squint. Basically, if it does not move, then that means this test is positive. Then we come to different kinds of deviations and what are they called. So these are all right eyes and these are all left eye. So now ESO means inward deviation. So if your right eye moves in, that is, if the right eye is over here and the left eye is straight, then we call it as esotropia, right eye esotropia. And if the deviation is outside, so this is your straight and let's say your left eye moves over here, then exo, moving out. So we call this as left eye exotropia. So this would be your right eye esotropia, left eye esotropia, right eye exotropia, left eye exotropia. Then for upward elevation we have hyper. So over here, if this is over here and this is straight, then we call it as right eye hypertropia. Similarly, for depression we have hypo. So if this is over here and this is over here, then we will call it as left eye hypotropia. So again, so this is right eye hypertropia, this is left eye hypertropia, this is right eye hypertropia, and this is left eye hypertropia. Then we have encyclotropia, which cannot be seen. in cyclo, that is if this is your, like I had said, if this is the axis and like this it has turned like this, so it is in cyclotropia. But if again this is the axis and it has turned like this, then over here if it goes then outside, then right eye X cyclotropia. So in cyclo and X cyclo, but this cannot be seen. Now difference between diplopia and confusion. So if there is only a very small angle in squint, that is very small angle, then if this is your one eyeball, this is another eyeball. So if here at the fovea it is forming, here there is a little bit squint, a little wide angle, so this is the fovea and here it is forming. So these two images won't be able to superimpose. So in that case diplopia is seen, that is same object would appear twice. But in confusion there is a very large angle. So if this here fovea it is there and here also fovea, but over here it forms. So this eye is looking at a different object and this eye is looking at a different object. So over here confusion occurs because they are looking at two different objects. So this cannot be diplopia. So over here change in head posture occurs. This is a motor movement which is there, motor adaptation which is there, that is change in head movement. Over here fusion occurs, that is extra work is done by extraocular muscles, that is in your motor, to overcome the small angle deviation. Then what your sensory adaptations, that is our retina says that if this is the fovea and only 5-degree deviation is there and this was my previous corresponding point, so now I will make this as my new corresponding point. So retina basically forms a new retinal corresponding point is seen. So up to 5-degree deviation if it is there. So this is called as ARC, anomalous retinal correspondence, because it is anomalous, it is not normal. Anomalous retinal correspondence. Then over here your brain says that if this eye is faulty and it is giving me a bad image, then I will completely ignore this eye and I will take only the image from the correct eye. So suppression of visual sensory impulse occurs. Visual sensory impulse gets suppressed. This is not good because this is called as your lazy eye, and or also called as amblyopia. So if this occurs, then there is no treatment available because there is no cause.